Welcome, everyone, to Manifesting Your Heart's Desires. I'm Beth McGill, and my mission in life is to inspire you to live a life that you absolutely love and to know that you can manifest anything that you want. So today, I'm so excited to introduce you to this beautiful woman that I met, and her name is Goldyn Duffy. She also teaches about the law of attraction, and she inspires me every day. So I just want to get right into the show with her. And Goldyn, thank you so much for being here and your willingness to show up. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be part of your inspired path, and just the connection that we've had, just even for a brief time, has been something that I'm excited about, and I'm excited to share what's been happening with me, and in any way that I can to share a message that affects somebody in a positive way. As it's really what I'm all about. It's why I get up every day, honestly.
Yeah, to inspire other people, just to have even a positive thought, anything to like it. Yeah, to enhance, to elevate. It's so beautiful. So I would love for you to share, have you always been like this master of manifesting?
No, actually, it's so funny because when I think about kind of how I was as a child, I was very unhappy as a child. I had a lot of contrast. And my mom used to call me a complainer all the time because I would constantly complain because there were things happening in my life that were just not great. And so I kind of grew up in that just perspective of always focusing on what I didn't want. And then back in 2000, I think it was like 2008, 2009, I got introduced to The Secret, like through Oprah. And I actually manifested a new car. Like literally, my husband brought me home the exact car that I wanted. I didn't even have to go to the dealership. So that was like one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, you really can sit in your house and manifest a car. We ended up losing that car to repossession because we went through an incredible financial crisis after that. We were part of the general contracting field. So when the economy went down, we went down with it. But the interesting thing that happened was I got introduced to manifesting in a different way. So it was like kind of manifesting through chaos because we had all this contrast, bankruptcy, cars repossessed, all these things. Like we had this big life and big lifestyle, and we couldn't maintain it. So the fears that happened, all of this actually ignited the power within us because we realized that we were creating this, which is I think it's a hard concept for people because you have to take hyper responsibility for your life. You have to take hyper responsibility for your thoughts. And in doing that, it's like the blame game's over. The victim game is over. And in many ways, I think people think it's easier to just be a victim and blame other people and not take the power back in their life. Like we could have blamed the government. We could have blamed the mortgage companies that set us up with the worst mortgages possible, right? But instead, we decided to become empowered through it. And I think that's always our choice in a challenge. We can either let that challenge beat us down and say, woe is me, or we can rise above it. And that's what we decided to do. So going through all of that, we ended up building ourselves back up. We actually got involved in a network marketing company, and that was a big part of our understanding the personal development field from the idea that what you send out is what you get back. And it was interesting in that company because we were suffering, we were struggling, but we worked so hard because we had to put food on our table, But through the course of that, we excelled in the company, but as far as income went, we were still kind of limping. And one of the reasons I think is because every week we would get up and tell our story, and people loved our story because, it was about the crash of the economy. Everybody could relate. So many people could relate. But then we started to realize, oh my gosh, we are talking about this every single week, and we just keep emitting the signal to the brokenness and to not having enough. So we ended up leaving that network marketing company and had this crazy dream to move to California from Connecticut. Connecticut is where we were both born and raised.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we only lived like 2 towns from where we grew up. And I just had this crazy thing. It was like, it wouldn't leave me alone. There was a good 4 years there where I kept, prompting my husband, like, let's move, let's get out of here. The winters are terrible. But it was crazy. It was like a crazy thought.
But you had family too, right?
Yes, at the time we had 2 girls home with us. We had 2 girls that were already moved out. And one was out here. My one daughter lived in Arizona already. So we knew we were going to have to leave my oldest because she was pretty stable there and she wasn't interested in going. And my 2 younger ones were middle school and just entering high school. So we brought it up in the middle of February. We were like, when it was really cold, and we talked about the beach and the sun and the warmth. So we got them on board, surprisingly. And they struggled. Like in the beginning, it was really like the acclimation of living in it's like a different country. I mean, Connecticut to California is a totally different world. So we ended up landing in a friend's house who was going to Hawaii that morning. And she said, you can stay in my house for 10 days. We packed my car and suitcases, and that was all we took. We sold all of our furniture. My husband ended up coming back for his tools. He went back for his tools like a couple months later. And no house, no job.
To interrupt you, but that was a call from that thought that you had, that feeling.
It wouldn't leave me alone. And it didn't make sense. And that's the thing about like following our intuition. It often doesn't make sense.
I know.
It often feels like the craziest thing ever. And no matter what I would do to try to talk myself out of it, it kept coming back day after day after day, to the point where I felt like I had really kind of pulled into myself and I didn't go anywhere. I mean, it was winter. I realized that I needed to be happy. So I started to really get happy, and I would shovel snow and sing and dance. And the interesting thing about that is, when I would shovel snow joyfully and sing and dance, I would have my headphones in. My neighbors probably thought I was crazy. I didn't have physical pain. So it was and I always got wrecked from shoveling, back pain. So I thought that was really interesting. So I got really happy, and I decided that I had gone to California the September before we moved. We took a trip there. I won the lottery. Yeah, I won $1,000 in the lottery. And I was talking to this gentleman in California, and he said, if you want to live here, you have to come here. I had been here once for like a half a day. He goes, you have to come here. You have to feel the energy. You have to see what it's like. You got to figure out where you're going to live. So I came here. We came here for 8 days and scouted. So I knew what the energy was like.
Okay.
And I went back home and nothing happened. We didn't make any connections. There was no builders. Like there was nothing. It's very different in California to actually be a general contractor. So that was one of our hurdles, was to believe my husband could do this. But when we landed in Newport, California, we looked around at the houses and they were very New England style. So my husband was like, I can build here. I can do this. So it was a big leap for him. He left a pretty thriving business. And yeah, the faith was exponential. And the fear was right there with it.
So during this time, were you just acting on faith? Were you intentionally looking for something that you wanted to manifest? Were you living this manifesting life at the time, or tell me more about that?
Yeah. So we had, up until that point, I was actually teaching law of attraction. So from 2009 until we moved in 2015, I was working diligently. I was studying quantum physics. I was teaching, and I think teaching always helps us to, understand it at a different level.
Yes.
We were manifesting like crazy. We manifested a flight to Hawaii. We manifested money. There was so much happening that we couldn't deny it. Like and especially if this is like your beginning of your manifestation journey, it's crazy in the beginning because you don't have as much resistance and you're flying. So everything that happened just kept telling us, just follow the breadcrumbs. Just keep following the next step. You can't figure it all out right now. I wanted to have a house set before we moved. There was no way. Because I was not going to rent a place not knowing what the neighborhood was like or what I was getting my kids into or the demographics of the school. I mean, I'm moving them out of the country, like the little country that they know.
Yes.
There's not a lot of culture in Connecticut, so I knew it was going to be a big deal for them. So I wanted them to feel comfortable. So, yes, this is so cool. I had written down, there was a woman here who was talking to me and talking about all the different places. And she mentioned Aliso Niguel High School as a really good high school that was kind of perfect for the girls. That was the high school they ended up going to. We weren't looking in Aliso Viejo is where we live, which is right outside of Laguna. When we first started, we were kind of looking in Huntington Beach. We were looking all over the place. And it's so cool when you get to a place and the energy just clicks and you go, this is my home. And and we had gotten off the highway to get gas on the way to somewhere else and landed in this town to get gas. And I looked around and I went, this is it. And the next day I got an email for the apartment that we ended up moving into.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, my nephew and his wife and 4 children live there.
No way. In Aliso Viejo?
Yes.
That's crazy. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, so it is a beautiful town. A lot of the hills, just the hills being by the ocean. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, there's a lot of canyons. We're 10 minutes from Laguna Beach, which Laguna called to both of us. Like, we really knew that we wanted to be near Laguna. When we visited, I remember sitting on a picnic table, and it's so cool to go there now and sit there and go, I did it. We did it,
Yeah.
But I remember sitting on a picnic table, eating a sandwich and looking around and go, could this really be my home? I want this to be my home. And now it is. I go to Laguna a couple days a week. So when we first got here, we went to a yoga meetup group because I was losing it. We were in a hotel for a couple of weeks. And when you have a certain amount of money, which we did, we had a certain amount of money saved up, which we thought was enough, and it was not. And you're giving that to a hotel every single day with no prospect of where you're going to live, it's frightening. And I realize I'm a homebody. Like, I love to create a home. So not having a home that's like security, not feeling secure at another level.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I love traveling, but I love coming home.
Like that feeling of just like, this is my space. This is my place, right? So my husband signed us up for this yoga meetup group, and he doesn't do yoga, but he knew I needed something because I was like, we had, 2 adolescents fighting in a hotel room, 2 cats. We had our cats with us and they were losing it. So he takes me to this yoga meetup group. We're a little bit early and we look out over the view, and it's in Laguna Beach. It's the exact view that was on his phone for the last 4 years. And we looked at each other and said, we're home. Like, we knew it. And it was little things like that would happen that would make us go, we're being led. And sometimes you can't see the steps. You just have to trust. And sometimes it feels really awful and really scary, but I can do anything now. I feel like we could do anything now,
And that's the beautiful thing about manifesting. It's like, all you have to know is what you desire. And you have to free yourself up to think, what is it that I really want? And know that you're worthy of having it, that we don't have to know how. And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up. They think, okay, well, if I want this thing, I have to figure out how to get it. But this story that you're telling us is such a perfect example of, you don't have to know the how. You just have to have this vision and know what would, understand that your soul is being called to this place for some reason, and you might not know why, but it's so beautiful that you let it be led. And it's also beautiful that it was you and your husband together. Like, you had a similar vision and you're both on this manifesting path. That's really, I find that to be quite unique.
Yes, I'm actually very blessed that he is alongside me in our development together. He did not want to move to California in the beginning. So every time I said something about California, and he had a negative comment about it, I would have to just forget that. I would have to just push it aside because it would bring up all this negativity inside of me. And I was like, it made me feel like I was in bondage. Like, I can't do this thing that I want to do. So I just had to let it go. And then over the course of time, he came up there with me. So if that happens in your life and your spouse isn't quite on board, just keep the faith and don't push. Like, that's the greatest thing in a marriage. If you don't push and you just let a person be and you just do what you love to do, eventually, if you're meant to be aligned together, you absolutely will be.
Yes, absolutely. When I very first started on my path, just even with the personal development and knowing that I wanted to be and have a positive mindset in my life, like just that alone, there would be times when he would want to go on his little rants. And I got to the point where I really knew what I wanted. And I had this positive mindset. And I would just look at him and say, I'm sorry, I can't hear this right now. I can't provide the listening for you right now. So I would literally walk out of the room. But I wasn't doing it out of spite or meanness. I was doing it out of love for myself because I knew that wasn't serving me. And then, but I didn't put him down or there wasn't anything negative towards him. But after a while, I saw and I could feel his energy and his vibration raising. So he doesn't go on those rants anymore. So it does. I've seen it happen in my own life as well.
That's amazing. Like, just taking space away could help somebody. And, we think we're doing people a favor by listening to their rants. And sometimes people need to vent. Sometimes I need to vent. But so often they're focused in the direction of everything they don't want, that you're actually helping them to solidify it by giving them space to listen to it. And it's pulling from your energy field as well.
Right. And it wasn't that he actually needed, sometimes we do need to rant.
Yeah.
However, it was not that. It was a habit.
Yes. It usually is, right?
Yeah. So it was a little bit different situation. So now you get to Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
You've manifested the location.
Yeah.
What happens? What have you been doing? That was a few years ago?
That was 8 years ago. So we get into our apartment. We have nothing. So we have to rebuild. I don't have silverware. I don't have bathroom rugs. I don't have a couch. So we go to Costco and we buy beach chairs and a vacuum cleaner. So we had the box for the vacuum cleaner as our coffee table and the beach chairs and a TV. I think we bought a TV. And then we actually went to all the furniture stores and ordered furniture. And this was kind of a cool thing because we didn't want to just spend all of our money on furniture. So we put it on furniture cards that were 0% financing. And I'm so proud to say that we have a 4-bedroom house that's fully furnished and all of our furniture is paid off. And we've never paid interest. And to me, and it helped me build my credit back because we were coming off of bankruptcies and house foreclosure and all of that crazy stuff. So when we moved here, that was another thing that was scary. I remember sitting with this real estate agent and he looked at our credit scores and he said, your credit is terrible. You are not going to find a place here. It is so competitive here. And he called this woman and he was begging her to take us as tenants. And it was this terrible house in this terrible neighborhood. And I looked at him and I said, we are not your charity case and we will figure this out. And we walked out. And that lit a fire in me where it was we are determined. And then when I got the email from the apartment that we ended up moving into, it was like a resort. There was 4 pools. There was a gym. Turns out I'm not cut out for apartment living, but it was a great landing space. It was a beautiful 1,700 square foot apartment. We, navigated the first year of our life here, and we've since found a really beautiful house here. But along the way of that path, there were times we didn't have rent. There was a lot of contrast in all of that to get us to where we are today. And a huge part of living in abundance is not necessarily having money. It's easy to be in abundance when we have money, right? It's so easy. But living in abundance is looking around you and seeing what's abundant and feeling what's abundant. My bank account would be negative and I would laugh at it. And that was really hard. because, you look at, you think about like, that's the worst case scenario. I've had that happen to me so many times over my life. And it's like, it takes the air out of your lungs,
Right.
and I just would start to go, I'm negative in the universe. There's no way. I'm adding way too much value to this place. So we just kept doing things like going and seeing the sunset. That's one of my favorite pictures. Just seeing the sunset every day would like make us feel better, being in nature, being at the beach, the beautiful landscape here, the fancy cars, the beautiful homes, all of that stuff started to elevate our vibration. And my husband didn't have work when we first moved here. In fact, he was working in LA, which was insane. It was like a 5-hour drive every day. So he let that job go, which I was like, what? We have no money. What do you mean you're letting that job go? But he is so faithful. And we had an appointment for a coffee date with a couple who knew of us on Facebook and loved what we did. So they're like, let's meet for coffee. And I was like, that's weird. And my husband's like, we are following the breadcrumbs here. Well, that one meeting connected us with a man who was a general contractor in the area, who I call our angel. He hired my husband. He gave us a stipend for a truck that we bought. We had no idea how we were going to pay for this truck. He did so much for us. He gave us money to go back and get our tools. Like, there's just these angels in your life that show up at the exact time that you need them and just help you on your journey. And we're still really good friends with him. And he gives us work all the time. So that got us through until my husband could get licensed.
Mm-hmm.
The licensing and contracting thing here is like 3 months and you have to go to school.
Yeah.
Even though my husband's been a contractor for like 40 years.
30 years. Pass that test.
Yeah, you have to pass the test. You got to, it's time. It's time. And we didn't really have time. So once he branched out on his own, ever since that day, which was 7 years ago, he has never not had work. He's just been literally thriving here.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great.
That's beautiful. So you mentioned one thing right at the beginning, and I think we should share with people what it is just in case they don't know. And that is, you said you saw The Secret.
Yes.
And that was like one of the first things that introduced you to manifesting. So why don't you explain what that is in case someone might not know what The Secret is?
I think you can still see it on YouTube. It's a movie. It was put together to actually share how manifesting works. I always say The Secret kept the secret because I didn't feel that they factored enough in about our emotions, because our emotions are energy and motion. So our emotions are what actually creates. So you can sit there and try to fool yourself all day long and say, I'm rich, I'm rich. I'm rich, I'm rich. But down deep, if you're terrified about your finances, your alignment of energy is off. So that was some of like the Pollyanna stuff that I think we thought in the beginning. Oh, if we just get happy and go for a walk and pretend everything's fine. Meanwhile, our world is crashing around us.
That's why Bob Proctor, I think, and I was introduced to The Secret through a network marketing class, like, yeah, or to you, where they showed The Secret. That was back in, I think, 2010. And that's where I first saw Bob Proctor and some other people. But Bob Proctor always taught that the primary law is the law of vibration. Yeah. The secondary law is a law of attraction. So that's what he meant, is what you just said, is that you can say, I'm rich, but if your vibration that you're putting out into the universe is that you're as poor as hell, then the law of attraction responds to your feeling in that vibration. It doesn't care how many that you say, I am rich 10,000 times. Like, the law of attraction responds to your vibration. So that's why that's so important.
Completely, without a shadow of a doubt. And if you really are abundant and, you are creating this, whether it's finances or love or whatever abundance you're creating in your life, if you really are interested in doing that, there's certain things that you wouldn't say, that you wouldn't feel, that you wouldn't behave that way. So I had to start asking myself, and this goes a little deeper than law of attraction and manifesting, and it's identity creation. Mm-hmm. So it's, who am I? Who am I if I am living my dreams? I'm not going to get up every day and feel like the world is against me because I got to figure out how to pay rent. I'm going to get up with all of the gusto in my heart and say, yes, I'm following my dreams, and it's going to be it has to be supported because I said yes to the universe. So that's one thing I think that trips people up, because they think, oh, I can trick my mind into believing something. But the truth is, who are you? Like, who are you inside? Who are you? What are you emanating?
Yeah. And that's one of the first questions I asked myself on my spiritual journey is, who am I? I didn't know what I was doing, but I sat quiet for 5 minutes and I was quiet. I called it my silent practice, because in my financial world that I was a financial advisor, that wasn't something that people did. Like, you had to be busy. But the moment I sat quiet for 5 minutes and asked, who am I? That brought all of my spiritual gifts to me. And it's crazy how that really works with one simple question.
Wow.
It can be that easy. So you do have to understand who you are at a soul level. So it does get a little bit deeper. And then I think it's Wallace D. Wattles in his book, The Science of Getting Rich, says it's who, like you said, it's about your identity, but it's asking yourself, who do I need to become?
Yeah.
In order to attract that into my life. Because we have to change. We can't still be the same old person. And so when it comes to manifesting, you have to become that person on that vibration that will manifest that thing. The old you can't manifest it because you're not at that vibration. So it really is about transforming our lives, transforming who we are. I am not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm not the same person I was yesterday.
Yeah.
Certainly, I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago or 11 years ago when I started on my journey. So yes, I'm glad you said that, because it's about transforming yourself, and no one else can do that for you.
No. And it's also overcoming, the idea that I am a certain way. This is just how I am. I had a conversation on a show recently about, believing that you're a morning person and saying that you're not a morning person, and how that manifests in your life. And if you really do want to become a morning person, it's really just a millimeter shift in your speech and the way you're thinking. And it's getting up early, right? It's doing the thing. So I always ask myself, what would I do and how would I feel if I was already in that manifested state? So, for example, when I'm on my fourth book, I'm writing my fourth book right now. And I remember the time that I was working, I had books on my computer forever. Like, I just kept writing and I never did anything with them, because publishing a book that's like putting yourself out there in the world, and it can be a little scary. So when I wrote my book, I actually channeled it in like 7 days. I asked myself before that, I said, okay, if I am an author, a published author, what would I do every day? And I was like, duh, I would write. That's just silly, right? But it's not just I would write, it's that the writing would become so important to me that nothing else would get in the way. That's how now I'm going to be published 4 times. So it's not about like, oh, I don't have time for this, or, it's all those little limitations that you put in your space. If you just say, you know what, forget that. How can I? How can I be that person?
We're the one that limits ourselves
Completely.
Before we go on with that, please tell us the titles of your first 3 books and what they're about.
All right. So my very first book is called Mindful Manifestations Secrets, and it's on Amazon. You do have to look up my name, Goldyn, Goldyn Duffy, because Amazon loves to hide me. That book is actually our story from leaving Connecticut, moving to California, but it breaks down exactly how we manifested things. So I was paying attention. I'm like that. I pay attention. I like to watch energy. I like to see how energy moves. I like to feel when energy starts to flow. So I shared the exact processes that we use. So it has our personal stories, but it's also a personal development book. And it's like 80 pages. It's super short. Really good read.
So you're telling a story, but you're teaching as well.
Yes, exactly. Which I like. Like, those are my favorite books to read. I don't really love to read like the how-to books, but you put some stories in there, and I'm your girl. Like, I love to hear about people's experiences, because I also think that it up-levels people's beliefs. If you're like, this happened to me and it can happen to you, just follow this formula.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did in my book, is I put out my experience, my spiritual journey, and all the exercises that I did, but also how my life changed.
Yes.
As I was going through it. So, okay, that's your first book. What about your second?
The second book I wrote is called Quantum Speak. That's actually also on Amazon. That's for parents. So it's energetic parenting. And it's my 30 years of being a mom to 4 daughters, and how my husband and I basically transformed our parenting journey from being disciplinarians into having beautiful, loving communication with our daughters. And, we raised independent women, which is not easy. But the peace in our family and the joy, it's not to say that we don't have issues, because when all of us are together, somebody often there's things, and I love it because it teaches us stuff. It teaches us stuff as a family and creates more depth. But that book it's near and dear to my heart. I started writing a parenting book, and then I wrote 3 of them before I actually published one, because I wanted to be really sure, because these kids are always testing me. So I'm like, you don't have this figured out at all. I got to start over.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. But I'm sure that would definitely benefit. And I love that you and your husband together made a conscious decision to change the parenting from, I told you to do it this way because I said so, into more of a loving relationship. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's more empowering versus trying to get your kids to do things. It's more you empower them to step into their geniuses and be a cohesive, force.
Yeah. And they're on their journey. They're our children, but we don't own them.
It's true. It's so true.
They're on their own journey. And okay. And the third book.
The third book I just published not long ago. I think I might have a copy, and I'm always so proud of the cover because I love it so much. But it's a journal, and it actually has 100 pages of information too. It's called Mindful Manifestation Secrets Daily Guide and Journal, and it's got this beautiful cover. It's hardcover, and it has a whole bunch of journal prompts in it too. So you have journal prompts. There's 100 pages of writing that you can write for yourself, and then there's 100 pages of stuff that I wrote. And also I put in my my podcast, Manifest to Live Life Goldyn. I put in all the episodes that go with the chapters and have even more information. So that one just came out. And then my 4th one is going to be a spiritual one, and it's coming through my dreams. So we'll see.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it started out different. And then I had a really lucid dream recently that I was like, this has to be shared. And now the whole book it's entangled in my dreams, but there's messages. It's really interesting, because in my dreams, I have these scenes, and then I wake up with inspiration. So I'm writing like a maniac right now because it's just coming through so fast.
Wow, that's crazy. So for someone that might not understand, what do you mean by, and I use the word too, spiritual? Like, what does that mean for you when you say it's about, this is a spiritual book, or what does that mean? How can you explain that to the audience?
So I want to just take manifesting and like how is manifesting science and spirituality? Because that's kind of my thing, is I bring those 2 things together. So we are a soul first and foremost, and we come into, this is my belief, and you don't have to believe me, but don't throw me out with the bathwater. We come into this life, I believe, to create experiences where we get to express. So we're connected to infinite intelligence. We're connected to divine wisdom. There's no separation. There's no to me, there's no God out here. That never made sense to me. And I always struggled with that. I grew up, I didn't grow up religious, but I became Catholic, really Catholic for a long time. And the separation of begging God for things it never sat well with me. So that when I came to this information, which was through Abraham Hicks, actually, that really solidified this for me, but also my own meditation journey, like going deep within myself and being really quiet. And then these messages, started coming through me. And I realized that this life it's about being human. Like, it's not about being a spirit right now. It's about having an incredibly human experience. But if you can connect that with that deeper inner self, your soul, your inner being, whatever you like to call it, and place yourself in moments of higher consciousness throughout the day, your journey is going to be very different, because you're not just living in this, what you see. It becomes this like other world.
It's a powerful world. That's what it is. And that's what I talk about all the time. When you're aligned and you have that connection, then there's no questioning your own power to create. There's no questioning your own power to manifest anything. And I believe, like you, 100% that we're spirit. I mean, quantum physics proves it. I did this. We've had a very similar journey where I studied Dr. Joe Dispenza. I studied Dr. Bruce Lipton and and Albert Einstein and their understanding of quantum physics.
Yeah.
And how quantum physics and spiritual leaders are saying the same thing, is that we really are a spiritual being. What I understand is that we choose to come here on this grand adventure, and that a lot of spiritual beings don't, because it's not an easy adventure. It's not. They say that this planet is the hardest planet, and that we as souls are super really brave for coming here and having this experience. So
I love that.
I know. So I'm like, I'm super brave.
I'm going to walk around with that all that.
Yeah, so that we come here, and it's not just for learning, but it is for the experience and for the fun and for the expansion. So yeah, I believe the exact same thing. And I love being connected with my soul. It's not, I had the same reaction with religion as well. Like, I couldn't see God as an old man sitting in a throne somewhere in the sky. That never resonated with me, although that's what I saw growing up every Sunday going to church. It's like, who is that guy? Like, how does that relate to my life and what's going on with me? What's interesting is I found some writing, some journaling that I did when I was 15, and I was questioning kind of the same thing. I was having these same ideas of like, where's the power within me? And then I think what happened is I got busy with life and going to college, and I forgot about that inner knowing that I had. But I'm so happy that I found it again. But that's where that strength comes from. Now, I did want to ask you this question, because one of the things I do, and I believe that this life is also a game, and we're here to play it in this experience. And I love Florence Scovel-Shinn's book.
Love her. She's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Got me through some of our hardest times here. And we have quotes of hers posted around our house.
Yeah, her quotes are all over my book and anything that I do. And, but she says, I just love listening to her. So no one has heard of Florence Scovel-Shinn and the Game of Life and how to play. You can find it on YouTube. You can listen to it. I love riding my little beach cruiser around the beach, my beach town. And I put in my earplugs and I listen to the Game of Life and how to play it. And she has some other books, but it's just so fun. And I'm laughing because she's so funny. She has been my spirit guide when I've been creating.
Love it.
Florence Scovel-Shinn and Louise Hay have both been guides to help me with my creativity. But the thing I love about Florence is she was a badass woman. So she published this book in, I think it was 1925 or something like that.
When women read this. Yeah.
In New York. She couldn't get anyone to publish it, so she had to publish it herself. And she says there's 3 rules to the Game of Life. Non-resistance, which for me, that's like letting go.
Yep.
Right? Learning how to let go, surrender, unconditional love. I believe that we have to have that unconditional love for ourselves and for others.
Love it.
And then she says the 3rd rule is having fearless faith.
Yes. Fearless faith.
And I love that.
And
I recently heard that this planet is the only planet where fear exists. It doesn't exist anywhere else in the universe. So that's part of this game. It's part of our experience in this physical body. But I saw your post today about fear and faith. So I know it's all of this, right? It's about the meditation. It's about having this inner knowing. That's what it's been for me. But how has it been for you to be able to get to a place where you're living in faith and not fear?
Because I think I've lived so much fear. And I think I had a turning point that happened. And it was actually right before we moved into this house. So we had a couple of moves before we found like the house that we really love. And we're actually getting ready to move again. But I remember a moment when I walked into this house and I thought, like, I got chills all over my body. And I remembered my body was because we had a week to move out. We were not getting along with the landlady at our last place, and we had 1 week to find a place, and I had looked at 25 homes. And we put everything on a list. I always do this. We always do this. We put exactly what we want on a list. And the only thing this house did not check the box was a pool, but that's the next house. So I remember like having all of this fear inside of my body. I could feel the energy inside of my body, but my mind was chill. My mind was calm. I was like, that's my house. The point where I made kind of demands on the person who was renting the house, and they just conceded to everything I asked for. So I remember feeling, I'm worthy of this, because that was a big deal with our credit scores and with the financial stuff that we had gone through, and kind of feeling like we had to do favors for landlords to let us move in. And our credit scores weren't bad at that point. They were probably in the 6s, but we still had wonky stuff on our reports. So I remember feeling so worthy that I didn't need to suffer. I didn't need to, do something special for this person. They were being granted a amazing opportunity to have us live in their house. Like, that was where I came from. And that shift was so massive for me that anytime any kind of like little thing comes up for me and I feel it in my body first, because I've trained my mind so diligently that I know it's just energy moving. Like, I have to just move the energy out. I got to go do yoga. I got to breathe. I got to get in nature, because when you give into fear, fear's not real. It's false evidence appearing real. Yeah. A projection into your future of what you don't want to happen, right? Your greatest fears coming true, right? So instead of being fearful, I always go, I can't wait to see what's going to manifest from this. And that shift it saves me now from, it's not to say that I don't still have fears. I mean, we all still have, little crazy fears. In fact, yesterday I was going to a spin class and I was late. And I don't like being late, and you have to put the pedals on and all of this. So I walk into the class. The class has already started. It's dark. I can't find the pedals. They're not in the basket. So I have to ask the instructor. She has to get down from her bike. She has to get the pedals and put them on for me. And I go, yeah, that's exactly how that was what I was afraid of. So, these little lessons come up and I go, all right, I can do better with that. And today I said, you know what? I'm going to walk into spin and my bike's already going to be set up and I'm going to be early, and all of that happened. Nice. It helps us. It's not to say that you're not supposed to live without fear. It's to say, what can you learn from it? What can you grasp from it that can help you to move more into faith? And what do you want to happen, instead of always focusing on what you don't want?
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. So tell me, what are you doing now? Like, tell us about, I know you mentioned your show, your podcast. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I have a podcast called Manifest to Live Life Goldyn. That's on all the podcast sites. It's also my YouTube channel. I've been doing that for 2 years. So I have like over, 150 episodes, 130 episodes, something like that. And then I got asked to do my own TV show. So I'm also on an app called E360 TV. It's under the Achieve TV. It's called the Golden Hour. And I basically have brought these two shows together so they're the same. They're pretty cohesive and the same. I used to do 3 shows a week, and yeah. And then I realized that I was killing myself and didn't understand why I was doing that. So I let part of that go. I also have a live event coming up at the end of January. I have partnered with a few people. So there's a gentleman doing numerology. There's another gentleman who channels. I'm going to be doing manifestation, and then there's another human design person. So we're all coming together to do a day seminar in Laguna Beach. So I'm really excited about that. And this is my year to get off my Zoom and get out in the world again. So
yes, I feel that. I know. I had a speaking event last Friday, but this Sunday, and I want people to know, because what you said about feeling energy is so important. If someone's going, well, how does she do that? It's like, guys, it's a matter of asking.
Close your eye.
It's a matter of asking. Like, ask, I use the term God, Spirit, Universe. Ask God, Spirit, Universe to give you a sign in your body when it's your intuition, when it's the right thing to do. So, and allow yourself to feel that energy moving in your body. So I had that same experience. I wanted to do an in-person event. I'm feeling the same way. I've I'm not working on any courses or programs right now. I want to meet with people in person. So I was going out to look at this one space, a retreat space that this beautiful woman has put together, and just driving to it. I get my messages, Goldyn, are very short. Usually 3 or 4 words. So my message was an afternoon of greatness. And I'm thinking, okay, that's a title. Just like I got the title of my book, Allow Life to Happen. It's usually about 4 words. Once I got, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. And I got the chills. That was a good sign. I get to this location. I'm sitting in her retreat area in this one, it's a yoga studio, but kind of a little meditation space. And I felt so comfortable, and I had such a knowing, and I felt my body just relax, and I could feel the energy in my body. And and I looked at her and I go, let's do it. And she hadn't like, it's going to be the first one she's ever had there. That's so exciting. Like, let's do it next month. And we got a date, and we're like, okay, we're doing this. And I go, okay, it's going to be 4 hours. It's an afternoon of greatness. Let's go. And so when you ask, you can ask for anything. And so for me, and you can even manifest having that feeling in your body when it's a go, when it's a signal. Ask for signals. Florence Scovel Shinn said, ask for what it is that you desire. Like, she even says, demand, what is my purpose in life?
Yeah. She did things called demonstrations. And when I was reading her book, this was so wild. I walked into Trader Joe's. So I had $40 in my bank account. And this was like probably first couple months that we were here. And I had $40 in my bank account. And I was like, okay, I got to go get dinner. And, I got this $40. So I decided that I was going to buy shrimp and langostinos because that I got that feeling of abundance. Like, I was like, I'm just going to get this, and I trust, and everything is okay and working out for me. So I went and I paid, and I walked out, and I looked on the ground, and there was $100 bill on the ground. And I looked up, and I was like, I have no doubt. And I told my husband, I brought it home to my husband, and he goes, we have nothing to worry about. And I was like, you're so right. Like, we are so taken care of. And she has story after story of people finding, rolls of money on the ground when they needed their rent money. So there's no doubt in my mind that reading her book was a part of my journey that helped me to step more into that faithful space.
Yeah. Yeah, I love her stories. They're funny.
They are.
There's such a sense of humor. Well, it's been so delightful to have you today. I know we could probably go on all day, but there's probably other things we should be doing in the world. So people can find your podcast, your show. It's called The Goldyn Hour, right?
Yep, that's on E360. And then you can find my YouTube channel is probably the easiest because that's where all of my shows go. And that's Manifest Live Life Goldyn on YouTube.
Okay, so check her out. And I'm going to be interviewing some other amazing people that have not only been manifesting, but I just interviewed this lady. I swear she lost first of all, she was this manifest queen, but then she had an accident and she gained all this weight. She was able to, again, consciously making a decision. She lost over 100 pounds.
Wow. That's incredible.
By deciding to get healthy. And so now she is sharing and helping other women to be healthy as well. So lots of fun episodes coming out. Go subscribe to Goldyn, subscribe to me here at Beth McGill, Manifesting Your Heart's Desires, and put in the comments, like, what are your takeaways? What are your nuggets? I would love to hear. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll see you.
So fun. Thank you all.
Thank you, Goldyn. Thank you so much.